Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're closing out the week here, Nate, on a Friday with a pretty decent-sized slate after just 4 games there on Thursday. Speaking of Thursday, went on the night 6-4, up nearly half a unit once again. So we're running along with a pretty consistent pace there. 4-2 on the play-up props, and Thursday bets went 2-2. Also, we're correct on a play-up prop that I had in the best bets. So we move along here to Friday slate. Continue to follow along with us, like this video, subscribe to the page, and check out everything we're bringing you. This is best bets. We've also got those play-up props up in a separate video for you if you want to check that out. Also want you to head to thelines.com, check out the written content we're putting up on the site, and use that odds finder tool I tell you about every morning, where you can make sure you're getting the best odds available to you from all of these books giving us bets this season. Nate, let's get into your first best bet here for Friday's slate.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Blazers on a teaser here. So Blazers plus 7.5 with the under at 225. And I mean, first of all, this is the NBA in-season tournament kickoff tonight. 7 games on the slate. Not sure how that will impact things. But for a team like Portland that has nothing else to play for besides, maybe having a competitive run in this little tournament thing, maybe that'll spark them. But I mean, the logic for this bet is more like, first of all, who is Memphis to be favored against anyone? The worst scoring margin in the NBA, winless team. Yeah, I mean, 5th worst assist to turnover ratio because they're badly missing Tyus Jones without Ja. 26th in points in the paint, which is their identity. And Portland, coming off consecutive wins over Toronto, Detroit, not coincidentally because Scoot Henderson got hurt and he's out for this one. So you get more Malcolm Brogdon, more stability. Like the under, Shaedon Sharp's going to be playing with a thumb injury, which hurts their scoring. But Portland, not really an offense you want to rely on. I mean, without Anthony Simons last season, who's out for over a month now, their offensive rating dipped 10 points per 100 possessions. They lost 7 points per game without him. They're playing at the 8th slowest pace this season. They were at a 95 pace and only scored 97 in their only home game to start the year. Defensively, they're a try-hard team, though, right? Under Chauncey Billups, at least so far. Except for getting wrecked by Joel Embiid and the Clippers in the opener. They've been really good against below-average offenses, I think you would say, in 3 other games. Defensively, they're 11th in defensive rating and 9th in points allowed. And the Grizzlies D right now, not up to snuff. They're actually allowing the most 3-pointers at a 43% clip, which is just unsustainable. So, I mean, Portland's shooting only 29% from 3 right now. So I think this is where you see that regression start to come back home, where Memphis is not giving up so many points after they got trucked in Utah. So that's why you got to like the under here. Along with the fact that Memphis just can't score, has a clunky offense going, and Portland should be geared up at home for only their second home game as they kick off this tournament.
We'll let you get some water there, pal. You made it. Almost through the sickness. You're spot on, as you said when you let everyone know that you were coming down, you were getting over COVID anyway. The mind is still sharp. And I would agree with this bet. Like, I was looking at a way to bet this game, and at the end of the day, I was just like, man, Portland 3 points. You're the teaser king, and the unders is also a great play in this one. Like, Portland is going to be a great fade when you want to take other teams' player props and points and overs in that sense, because they're not going to play much defense with that backcourt. You found a situation where you've got a Memphis team that can't score. They still do play defense. They're always going to be grit and grind. And now you've got a Malcolm Brogdon getting increased minutes, Scoot Henderson getting decreased minutes. Yes, totally agree that that'll also slow the game down entirely and bring some more defense to the court. So I'm good with the way that you're playing this one. I would just consider the under in this game in general. I think we probably could see like a 106, 101 kind of game that'll just be kind of gross because Memphis will just muck it up. That's the best thing that they can do right now with the way that this roster is currently constructed with as many guys that they have hurt. So I'm going to move on to the New York Knickerbockers, plus 6.5 over the Milwaukee Bucks. Well, they don't got to win. They just got to cover in this one. And it's a good matchup and situation for them because they're trying to score from 3-point and they just can't so far. They've also played really good 3-point defenses and defenses in general to start the season, including that Celtics team that is just freaking world beaters, unbelievable. But in this one, they get a Bucks team that's still figuring it out, especially on defense. Even on offense, it's clunky, and they really just rely on two of the best offensive players in the NBA in Dame and Giannis to take them to glory. So it's scary to think about what would happen to this offense if it got rhythm and any kind of like semblance of order and consistency. So we'll wait for that point. But until then, the lack of defense that they have, I think, is going to help the Knicks really stay in this game no matter what. They're going to keep shooting threes in Milwaukee, especially without Drew now gone. Say what you want, even without Grayson Allen playing wing defense for them, they're much thinner on that part of the court and trying to defend that area of the court. And the Knicks are going to keep chucking those threes. Randall and Brunson are going to keep trying to penetrate and kick out to different guys like Grimes and Quickly, et cetera, to be able to hit those shots. And they just need to start hitting them, including Brunson and Randall, to be honest, even though Randall not shooting nearly as many threes as he was last season. Milwaukee's got the second worst defensive rating so far. That's not Milwaukee basketball, as we well know. They are allowing the fourth most threes and the third highest 3-point percentage. And we often talk about how Coach Bud's strategy was allow the right players to shoot threes. And I don't even think they have that kind of order and direction going for them right now on defense to be able to really control that. I think the Knicks, with their team chemistry at this point, the same squad for the last 2 to 3 years at this point, they're going to know a lot more about each other, right? And the ability to find spots in this defense, I think. So the defensive rating for the Knicks, second best. They're playing at basically the slowest pace in the league, which is fine for them and something that I think that they can take will help them, keep things a little bit closer than 7 points. It's down to 5.5 for legitimate juice at this point. You got to eat it. If you want to take 6.5 for them, it's like minus 140. If you want to get it to 5.5, I'm still okay with that. I want to make sure it's above 5, to be honest. But either way, I think that the Knicks are a good team to cover in this situation. Also really covered at home, by the way, against the spread a lot last year.
Yeah, I think they covered in each meeting against the Bucks early in the season, but weren't able to win. And that was a completely different Bucks team. Yeah, I mean, I said Memphis, who are they to be favored? I mean, who are the Bucks to be favored right now against a legitimate Eastern Conference team? They look like utter garbage. Like I said this, if other than having two superstar caliber players, they have nothing going for them. So I actually put the Knicks, to full disclosure, in my teaser with the under with that previous game in Portland. Because I do trust them to cover 9 points more than I trust Portland to cover, and I do still like the under in that game. But yeah, Knicks could easily win this game, let alone cover 9-10 points. So let's go with the same game parlay here and keep it conservative. We almost hit this one yesterday. Basically, Maxey 18 points instead of 20 would have gotten us a nice 3-1 hit. But another conservative one here is Vucevic double-double, Ben Simmons 8 rebounds in that game, and then the Joker to go 20-10. And that gets you almost 2-1 on your money. You could go a little more aggressive with Vucevic 15 points, and then you're over that mark as well. I mean, the reasoning, first of all, Simmons and Jokic both have double-digit rebounds every game this season, and Simmons should continue to play that kind of point center role for Brooklyn with Nick Claxton out. Cam Johnson's also out. Dinwiddie's questionable, so they need that point presence there. Yeah, Vooch has come alive after his slow start. Averaged 22.5 points and 18.5 rebounds in his last two against Dallas and Indy. And the Joker's now playing Dallas, a team that doesn't have much of a presence in the middle, that he should be able to control the action against at home, where he averaged 13 boards per game last season versus 10.5 on the road. Mavs are allowing the fourth most points to centers and 16 rebounds per game to the position. Nets are giving up the most points per game to centers on the season right now because they don't have Claxton. They don't even really play a center at the moment. Vooch, despite his slow start, is averaging a career high or posting a career high 33% defensive rebounding rate, getting a third of available rebounds, had 20 of 43 team rebounds against Dallas. And, Simmons, 15.5 rebounds per 100 possessions. He is boarding up, not necessarily looking to score, but he's been a vital part of Brooklyn. That game also kind of leans under at 222. It's some really clunky offenses that we saw Brooklyn kind of get exposed against Miami when in their last game, that Chicago's defense has been really good, and they were able to slow it down with Dallas, which was stunning. Dallas has not gone under against anyone, which is all to just say, like, I think more rebounding opportunities in that game, and those are the two best rebounders in it.
We tried to hash it out, and I went the wrong direction with that Dallas Chicago game. Taking the Chicago to cover by 5.5 with Kyrie not playing, and then it went under the 220, whatever. Either way, yeah, this is another ripe under. Like, let's stop trying to think that teams are going to out Chicago. They're going to just be like, look, man, we could be down 14 points in the third quarter. We're not increasing this 95 pace. So, like, do what you will with it. We're going to still grind you to death with the way that we play offense right now, which is mostly top of the key. What do you want to do with it between DeMar and obviously Zach LaVine, with a little bit of movement on the wing, I suppose, but not much else, especially with Vooch, playing the way that he does, really the high elbow mostly. Either way, in this one, yeah, it's not a game I'm definitely going to be watching. I don't know what, like, there's so many guys out for the Nets in this one as well, that I do think, like, it's probably a good place for Chicago, just throwing that off bat. But it's such a weird, like, middle of the road, two teams that are in the middle of the road in the Eastern Conference. I just don't love it either way. But I'm going to finish up with a game that should be more exciting, even though Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is not in it. And that is Steph Curry and the Warriors in a little same game parlay where the Warriors win on the money line and Steph Curry scores more than 28 points in this game. Something he should be able to do relative to last year. He scored 37 points per game against this team in the 3 that he played against them. This is kind of one of those we're your daddy scenarios, similar to the Sacramento Kings, who have lost their first 2 games to the Warriors already this season. The Warriors have won 7 of the last 8 against this team. Shai playing, Shai not playing, doesn't really matter. One of the most telling signs of, like, a we own you scenario that I saw last season was the Warriors could not win on the road, historically bad on the road, as we all know. Finally got to double-digit wins on the road last year for a team that won more, just an insane amount of games at home to get themselves into the playoffs. Either way, in when they went to Oklahoma City in the midst of an awful road trip and streak of games where they were just losing, they still won by 8 points on the strength of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson doing what they do to the Oklahoma City Thunder, which is just stabbing them in the heart at every opportunity. I do, want to say lastly, like, CP3 coming to this team has been a really good acquisition. And it was one of the things I said in our season preview videos where we were talking about futures was, I understand that Chris Paul seems like he's not a good fit for a team that's already old, but this is what they wanted, was someone who came in and was the complete opposite of Jordan Poole from the standpoint of, we want you to come in and control the second unit, but actually control it. We don't want you to just come out and try to get stats and, like, show off how good you're going to be in this league. We need you to, like, command that unit like a leader. Couldn't do that. Chris Paul can do that. And like I was always saying about CP3, he fits within every offense that he plays in, no matter what. That second unit right now has a net rating of plus 17. That is not something that you could have said last season. And that's crucial against this Thunder team that's going to be missing Shai. And basically the same record last year with and without Shai Gilgeous, because they do have guys that can step in. They're very deep, as we know. Guys like Jalen Williams, when they increase their usage, which I'll talk about in player props, it's very noticeable and they're still very efficient. So I think they'll be fine in that scenario of, like, being able to score to a degree, but not with this Warriors team where Steph is, he's lifted them up in 2 games where he scored above 30 this season. He scored 27 twice as well when needed. I think it'll be close enough that he's still scoring in the fourth quarter and there's not really as much of a blowout scenario. But I think this is a game where he just is like, I'm going to remind you that I'm your daddy and score around 30.
Yeah, and he has to carry this offense right now because there's not a lot coming from Klay and CP not being the same kind of scorer. I mean, he's a facilitator, like you're saying, but yeah, it's got to be Steph scoring 30 plus for them to get this road win. OKC's still going to be tough even without SGA, and we saw Steph bounce back from quiet games to drop 40 twice this season. He had a quiet game against Sacramento with 7 turnovers, low scoring game. Yeah, I think it's a good bounce back spot for Steph.
Love to find the Steph spots, right? So we'll hope we go 1 for 1 on that this season. But that is all the time we have for you in this one. Continue to follow along. Also have our play up props video up for you this Friday. So until we see you next, happy betting.